Hi, everyone. Welcome into a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can see the third member of our esteemed crew, little Timmy Whispers. He's away. He's doing real work at a trade show. I mean, that guy's always somewhere, isn't
Yeah, man. He's the hardest working man in medical field.
he? I was hearing some strange sound coming from the other room. They're testing some equipment in there. I thought they were testing somebody's heartbeat. It was kind of a little
Well,
freaky.
every time I come in, I see that little cadaver, that little fake dead body that's in the room. The very first time I saw it, I literally jumped because I thought Tim had killed somebody, and we were going to be witnesses.
And you wonder what Timmy's doing with that cadaver after a couple of beers late at night.
Yeah, I really don't want to think about that. That's Mark. You just took it to a dark place, Mark. I wasn't ready for that, brother. I wasn't ready for that one.
Stacey's tired. He's been on the road. A lot of games coming up, and let's talk about what's been going on with the Bulls. They're coming off. We're taping on a Tuesday afternoon after the Bulls took care of a very shorthanded Brooklyn Nets team, 128-102, and they kind of messed around a little bit, but then it was nice to see them really take control in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game, Mark, that they should have won. I mean, on paper, Brooklyn's missing 5 of their top guys.
Mm-hmm.
They had been playing well. They went out west and they beat some good teams. They beat Golden State, Sacramento, and Phoenix. No one even gave them a chance. So, and Jordi Fernandez has them playing really, really good. It kind of reminds me about 4 or 5 years ago when Kenny Atkinson was there. They didn't really have a superstar player, and they just had a bunch of pieces and parts. But he got them to compete and got them to believe, and they had a extraordinary season, and then they were able to get a guy like Kevin Durant, superstar players, seeing all these guys play hard and hustle. I want to be part of that. So they were able to get him and James Harden, and it was Kyrie Irving, but all 3 of those guys couldn't coexist.
And if Kevin Durant's shoe size was one less, they might have won a title. They would have beaten Milwaukee in that series.
They would have beaten Milwaukee in that series. I don't know how far they would have gotten.
The Bucks won a championship after that.
Yeah, but I think the Bucks were equipped to win a championship more than Brooklyn was. They were a team full of stars. Plus, I think Kyrie Irving was not. Was he out?
I think he was hurt.
He was hurt. Yeah. So I don't think they would have had enough to be able to get out of the Eastern Conference. But I mean, it would have been pretty cool to see because Kevin Durant probably, the way he was playing during that time, who knows? Maybe he elevates him to win a championship. Who knows?
Let's talk more about last night's game. And obviously, the big storyline was Matas Buzelis with a career-high 20 points. He made 4 out of 5 3-pointers, blocked a couple of shots. It's really been fun watching his development. We knew the kid had a lot of confidence coming in, but he just keeps getting stronger and stronger each time out.
Well, he's getting playing time. When you get consistent minutes, you get consistent play. He's still going to make some mistakes. He's a rookie, just turned 20 years old. He's going to make some mistakes out there, but you can live with those mistakes. I said last night on TV, you can live with those mistakes from him because he's going to make them because he's a young player. He doesn't have enough experience. As long as they're full speed mistakes, as long as there's some mistakes that he's out there and he's busting his ass, you can live with those. It's those ones where I miss a couple of shots and then I don't hustle back on defense because I'm pouting because I didn't make the shots. That's the ones you can't have. Those are or defensive assignments. It's still going to be a work in progress with him to learn, the mechanics of where to rotate, when to rotate. Because in college, he didn't go to college. He played with the G League, Ignite. So he missed that part of it. I came in as a 4-year, All-American basketball player at the University of Oklahoma. And to get the schemes of defense was really hard for me the first 2 or 3 months of the season because in college, you're focused on zones and you're focused on guarding your own man. You're not focused on recovering, help your teammate out like that. Every man's supposed to be able to guard their guy in college. And so when you get to the pros, it's not like that because all the players are so good, they're so athletic, and people need help.
I know you mentioned it on the broadcast, the fact that his three-point shooting has come so far in such a short period of time. I know he's worked with Peter Patton, the Bulls shooting coach, and he was 4 out of 5 from long distance. And now in that catch-and-shoot thing, his form looks good, and he's not hesitating at all.
No, both him and Julian Phillips have really worked on their game. When you saw Matas come in and play, the first few weeks of the season, even in preseason, his shot had like a hitch to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a smooth jump shot. But as he's gone on this year, he's worked on it. He stays after, works with Peter Patton, who's got the reputation of being a shot guru. And he smoothed it out. He smoothed out some of the rough edges of it. He's going straight up and down now. Even when his misses are there, they look like they're going to go in because of his form. And he's shooting. As soon as it touches his hand, most rookies, will hesitate. Like, should I take the shot because I don't want to get pulled out? But, he's got the green light. All these guys got the green light to shoot these threes, man. There's not one guy on this team that Billy says, I don't want you to shoot. Maybe there's some guys that shouldn't shoot, but he's giving the team the green light to get up as many shots as possible because they're playing at a high pace. They're in the top three in pace and number one in pace, 3-point shooting, 3-pointers made. So they're where they want to be. It's just they got to get that second part of that defensive part worked out. When they can lock in defensively, I'm telling you right now, like I hate to say it, we may not have that pick.
That's true. It's a top 10 protected pick. Otherwise, it goes to the San Antonio Spurs as the final payment for the DeMar DeRozan sign and trade some years back. Josh Giddey, who came over, of course, in the Alex Caruso trade, maybe had his best game as a Bull, a triple-double. And I was surprised you guys mentioned it as well in the broadcast. They hadn't had a triple-double since January of 22. That's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, it's hard to believe because you think, we had, Lonzo Ball when he was healthy. He was floating around with one. Zach sometimes floats around. Kobe floats around with it, but it was surprising to find out no one had one. But this kid, since he's been here, you could tell that it was just a matter of time before he got one. I mean, he's probably going to have multiple before the season ends. I wouldn't be surprised he had in double digits because he's 6'8". He rebounds the basketball, he assists, and then all the other little intangible things that he does that he can get a triple double. He's starting to have confidence shooting his three ball. They're starting to leave him in the game in the fourth quarter now. They're not, Billy's not yanking him like he was earlier, like 2 weeks ago, because of his defensive purposes. He's now got the message, and the kid's a smart kid. He understands, like, if I want to be in the game, late game situations, I've got to play defense. I got to be able to stay in front of people and commit to being, a defensive stopper at the end of games where I'm going to get pulled out. So he's been in there. Billy's giving him confidence to, stay in there, and he's worked on his game defensively, and that's what you want to see if you're coaching.
Nice to see Lonzo Ball is back. He returned last week in the game against Orlando. And, you don't expect Lonzo to score a lot of points. He's not playing a lot of minutes right now as he comes back from the wrist injury, and they're still monitoring the condition with his knee. But immediately when he comes on the floor, the energy picks up. He had the block from behind yesterday. I mean, basketball IQ plays he makes are so valuable to any team.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, you can just tell when he steps on the floor that he's on a different level mentally. His IQ is one of the smartest players that I've ever seen, in this generation of players. I mean, just one of the smartest players. He knows where he is on the floor. He knows that, maybe his body's not the way it used to be, but he's getting away with it because of his mind. He's rebounding the basketball. He's helping. He's talking. We did a sequence last night where he's actually, you watch him, he's like a middle linebacker. He's on the corner on the left side of the court, and he's telling, hey, left, watch that screen, watch that right. He's back cut. He's talking. And I said last night, the younger players, if they're watching him on the bench, they need to be watching what he does, not watching what he does as far as the scoring and the assists, but watch how his IQ takes over games, and that's where they want to be. They want to send that. You would think Lonzo's been in the league like 30 years, with the way he plays. When he gets more minutes, I'm telling you right now, I would not be surprised that his numbers don't pick up because, you start giving him some major minutes. I would not be surprised that his numbers don't pick up double-digit scoring, some 8 assists, rebounds, blocks. People forget he was the number one shot blocker when he went out with injury.
Right.
And that's hard to believe because that's your point guard, and when he plays defense, you don't have to double. There's no mismatch with him because he's strong enough to battle guys like Giannis or guys who outweigh him. He knows how to play position defense. He knows how to use his body. So you don't have to double team and help out and go down there and leave your guy to help him and then leave a wide open shooter.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the Bulls kind of going with dual paths right now. They want to win as many games as possible, but at the same point, they want to hold on to that top 10 protected pick that they owe San Antonio. And they're kind of caught in between right now. I saw a report from Mark Stein, who's a very well-respected NBA columnist, NBA insider, where he said that the Bulls are already pretty active in trade talks. And you got to think Vooch, averaging 20 and 10 and shooting like 46% on threes, is going to be attractive to some team out there. I would think if they decide that they want to trade Vooch, there's going to be several teams that are going to make competitive offers for him.
There's going to be several teams that feel like they're one player away, a big away. I right now, just off the top of my head, just seeing them play the way they do, he would be perfect in Phoenix. because Nurkic doesn't shoot threes, and he's not a threat to be out there on the perimeter shooting threes. You put Vooch in that lineup with Kevin Durant and Beal and what's the Booker. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that would be a scary roster because that's the one element they're missing. The Lakers could use them. That's the one element you can move. AD back to the power forward position. Vooch's gonna get you a double, and he's gonna stretch the floor. So there's some really good teams that are one or two players away from really going deep into the playoffs. I don't see him staying in the East. I see him more going out west. But I don't know. Who knows? It depends on what the offer is. But the way he's playing right now, I say it every night, he's playing all-star level. He's playing like an all-star like he did when he was in Orlando. He's confident that three-point shooting. I mean, the month of November, he was shooting almost over 50% from the three-point line, 60% from the field, 70% from the field. So what you're seeing the difference with Vooch this year is people say, well, he's making shots. He's making shots. No, what the difference is he is investigating playing inside first and then going to the outside. Get himself going in the paint, and then pick it up on the outside.
Also, Mark Stein talking about the market for Zach LaVine, that teams are still a bit afraid of his contract, which has 2 more years left after this one at max dollars. But Zach is also shooting the lights out right now. And you look at the Lakers, who are really struggling. They were even talking about letting LeBron wrestle a bit because his three-point shooting has been so poor that he's just flat out worn out. LaVine to the Lakers, I think, may pick up momentum as we get closer to February.
Listen, people can talk all that money about Zach having 2 years on his contract, whatever. You trying to win a championship. That doesn't mean nothing. And teams got the money to spend, and teams got the money to pay him and pick up that contract and absorb it, okay? Now, was it harder to do that when he was injured? Yeah. Was it hard when he was sitting out and no one knew if he was going to come back and be the same player? I think he's proven to people that, hey, look, I'm still an elite scorer. I'm still a guy that can go out there and get 40 points like it's nothing. I'm still a guy that can knock down open shots. I'm one of the best catch and shoot guys in the league. My percentage shows that. My defense may not be where it should be, but I'm at least giving effort this year. I will commend Zach.
He's really good on the ball.
He has been really. This looks like the year when he played on the Olympic team, where he knew he had to play defense to get on the floor. It's been like that now, and he's really making the effort. He had to play last night. He was guarding a bigger guy in the post.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and he was 1-on-1. Bodied him up and would not let him go anywhere. Dude shot a turnaround fadeaway jump shot on a guard, and I was just like, Zach played good position defense. Someone's gonna bite. Someone's gonna get, if they really want them, if they really want these guys, and they feel they're one player away. Trust me, those teams are not gonna be afraid to pull the trigger. Now, what you don't want back is you don't want junk back if you're the Bulls.
You
don't want any just salary to salary dumping. Give me this guy, because you're in position right now to develop your younger players if you decide to go that route. Okay. These guys are playing so well right now as a team, as a unit. There's good chemistry there. The veterans enjoy playing with the rookies. They're fun. They enjoy each other. I'm on the plane with them. They get along. They trust one another. So there's this chemistry going on. So now you're like, if you're the Bulls, you're like, man, we got all this. We got talent here. We could, if we keep these guys, we might be able. Right now, we're in the playing game. I think we're like 6 in the Eastern Conference. So we'd be. Or 7th, so we'd be right in that play-in game right now, which that, vacates that pick. Mm-hmm. So we got 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
I know.
And so, but you can't tell. What people don't understand is these guys are not going to tank. The players don't tank. NBA players don't tank. They go out there and compete. That's what they do. And so you sitting over there thinking, well, man, the only way that's going to happen, you get rid of everybody. You get rid of Zach, you get rid of Vooch, and then you make that commitment to go younger and just start playing on younger guys. That's the only way you're going to keep that pick. But if these veterans stay here and they decide that let's just go ahead and run this out, bye pick. we're not, no. Unless somebody kidnaps Zach and Vooch as they go into their car and hold them hostage, like Celtic pride, that's not happening, man. That pick may be gone, bro.
We got a guest coming up, friend of the show, Andy Demetra, who does great work for Georgia Tech football and basketball. He was involved in an 8 overtime game. I remember you worked a game with Atlanta, the triple overtime.
Yes,
You talk about astronaut
quadruple
diapers.
is 4. It's 4 overtime.
We'll see if you had the astronaut diapers over the weekend.
Yeah, man. Lord, boy, that was one of the longest. That was the longest game I've ever been part of. I don't think I could last 8.
Yeah.
I'd have called timeout and say, "Hey, do we got to stand in?" Like when you do acting, they got like a guy that looks like you.
Yeah.
Just bringing a guy that looks like me about after the 4th overtime.
Yeah.
Then they have him sit in the chair.
Yeah, before we shift, I just want to ask you one question about the NBA Cup. Last year was the first year they called it the in-season tournament. This year, it seems like more players are buying in. And there was actually a lot of excitement last Friday when the Bulls played the Celtics. Had they won that game, they would have been the champions of their group. And you're seeing that the players are buying in more. I know there's money to be won and things like that, but it seemed like last year was like, I'm not so sure about this. Guys seem like they're starting to see what it's all about now.
Well, you're buying into it more because you saw how the interest of the fans and everybody got it. But you're also, when you have a chance to advance, you get a little bit more excited. When you go 0-3, you're like, oh God, and most those teams last year, the teams that weren't in it, that didn't go to the knockout round, of course they're going to be like, oh man, because then you have to still play games.
Still got to
pick up
games,
2 more games.
Yeah.
So guys don't want to do that because those are normally be off days. Those are your off days. So they supplant 2 games like we found out. I think next week we play Wednesday or Thursday home game. Then we got to go on the road and play somebody, and that's where I think guys are like, oh man, it sucks.
Well, last year you had to go to San Antonio.
Oh,
that was
we played San Antonio like
schedule.
3 times last year.
Yeah,
it was crazy. So and I think that's where guys, the guys get upset about it or don't really like the tournament because they would rather have those days. Once we get knocked out, just knock us out. Let us have our off days, okay?
Yeah.
Don't reward us by saying, well, since you didn't get to the tournament to the next round, we'll give you 2-3 more games.
Right.
Say, oh no.
Yeah, that's where when you count for 2 different things,
yes,
people aren't that happy about it. We're going to bring in Andy after a break, talk some college hoops and college football. First, I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Jeff Vukovich. When it comes to being treated like royalty, for all your auto, home, and business insurance needs, contact our good friend Jeff Vukovich. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. The phone number, 847-825-4783. Another jingle in you today?
Nationwide is on your side. It's a little rusty.
Yeah.
It's a little rusty. I'm a little tired, America. A little tired.
Stacey's still bringing it. We appreciate the sponsorship of
my
our
man
good friend, Jeff Vukovich.
Jeff's loyal.
Give him a call. He'll take all of your insurance needs. So we're coming back, talk a little college hoops and football after the break here on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We are back on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. It is now our pleasure to welcome in a friend of the show, Andy Demetra, who does great work in the Atlanta area, does Georgia Tech football and basketball. He did some Bulls games with Stacey King back in the day when they were having the Wild West search for Neil Funk's replacement. What are your memories of that, Andy?
I think Stacey and I both have the same memory that one of the games we called my first year was that 4 overtime one in Atlanta, 168-161. So I thought, you know what? This is the last Bulls game I ever get to call with Stacey. At least I got my money's worth. So, yeah, that was certainly a memorable night.
Stacey still references that. He says that was the time when he wanted to get an endorsement for astronaut diapers because he had no chance to go to the bathroom during quadruple overtime.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it was between the 3rd and 4th overtime.
Yeah.
I just couldn't hold it any longer. I promise I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a play, though.
He didn't miss a play.
You got good speed getting to the restroom. That's pretty good.
Yep. If you got to go bad enough, anybody can turn into an Olympic level sprinter.
I tell you what, I remember that game. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, okay, after the first one, after the second one, I'm like, is there going to be a third one?
Didn't Lowry have like 50 in that game or something like that?
All I know is I need to go to the bathroom. That's all I need to know. I didn't care who had 50. I don't care who had 40. Andy was over there. He was over there doing like a little child. He's banging his knees together. He's trying to move around. He's like, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, man, I'm right with you, brother. I was like, I should have worn some astronaut diapers.
Yeah, the perils of big-time broadcasting.
Yeah, and Stacey and I, we're going to be in Atlanta calling the game. I'll be filling in for Adam on December 26th.
Yeah.
So, Stacey, just for you, I'm going to look on Amazon between now and December 26th. If not that, I know I can get a bedpan from somewhere in Atlanta. We'll be settled. We'll be taken care of.
Hey, you almost needed one last weekend. 8 overtimes in college football. I mean, I'm watching that game, And I'm pulling like heck for Georgia Tech. They had a few chances where they had the second possession where you're just going 2-point conversions. I'm thinking, just get this 2-point conversion and you get the win. What was it like being in the middle of that?
Mark, it was epic. It was exhausting. It was excruciating. It was all of that. And I think we all know in broadcasting when we're in the middle of a game that feels like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like going through those overtimes. And you're aware that you're in the middle of what will ultimately be an historic game. You just hope that it breaks for your team. But unfortunately, it was a pretty gut wrenching way to end it for Georgia Tech. I think it was compounded by some somewhat controversial officiating decisions along the way that have not and will never sit well with Georgia Tech fans.
Yeah.
But I think Tech fans also would acknowledge that, like in those 2-point conversions in overtime, they had opportunities to put Georgia away. They just couldn't make that one last play to put them over the hump when they needed. So it was an amalgam of heartbreak for Georgia Tech fans. But I think, if you were to take a step back, I think Tech earned a lot of respect from how they played. Georgia had won 30 straight home games, and kind of further affirmation of the trajectory this program is on. And I appreciate, Mark, you watching and pulling for the Yellow Jackets.
I
And hopefully
was,
that
yeah.
can endear a few more fans to Georgia Tech fans in the years ahead.
How long did that game actually take hour-wise?
Oh, man.
So what was interesting was we played this game on a Black Friday. It was the first time in 30 years that Georgia Tech and Georgia had played on a Friday. And we still ended it on Saturday morning anyway. So we kicked off at about 7:44. The game, I think, ended 5 to 7 minutes after midnight. So yeah, it was
Wow.
close to 4.5 hours when it was all said and done.
Wow.
Yeah, Stacey
Yeah.
and I were in Atlanta when you knocked off Miami, and that was quite a victory for the program.
It was, yeah, no, big win. And I think that's what gave Georgia Tech a lot of belief that they could go into Georgia, which was also a top 10 team, and that they had the tough mindedness to be able to get another win. But yeah, that Miami game, that was certainly memorable. Fans stormed the field afterwards. They tore down the goalposts. I didn't know if it'd make a visit to State Farm in its travels around the city that night, but yeah, exactly. And you know that when you're in broadcasting long enough in sports, everything kind of balances out. You'll call some really thrilling last second memorable wins, but you'll also call some memorable gut punch losses. And between Miami and Georgia, I guess it all kind of evened out for Georgia Tech and for me.
Does it look like Georgia Tech's going in the right direction as far as, playing two good, top 5 teams and, holding their own? Does it seem like the program is on the upswing?
Oh, absolutely, Stacey. Yeah, no doubt about it. And they have the right coach in Brent Key, who's an alum, and I think he has imprinted his identity on this program in a way that I think can sustain success for Georgia Tech, being tough and disciplined guys who love football. I know that sounds really trite, but you never know how truly somebody loves playing football or just being a football player. And I think you're seeing in recruiting them, bringing in the types of guys and making really effective additions to the transfer portal. They have this thing in a really steady place. And like I said, had they gotten that one last play against Georgia last Friday, they would have beaten 3 top 10 teams all this season, which is certainly proof that they're in the right direction, they're doing the right things, and that they're hopefully built to not only be at this level, but get above that level and stay at that level for quite some time.
We're recording this podcast on a Tuesday afternoon, and college football fans are anxiously awaiting the reveal of the college football rankings coming up tonight. It's going to be interesting after some of the upsets last week, and Stacey and I were talking before we brought you on. Had Georgia lost that game to Georgia Tech last week, and that would have been their 3rd loss. Alabama has 3 losses. And now you have the potential of, mediocre teams like Arizona and maybe Clemson getting into the 12-team field with automatic bids as conference champions. What do you think of this whole playoff? And do you think there's going to be some tweaking needed when they go to year 2 of this format?
Well, I'm an advocate of the 12-team playoff. I think you have so many teams now that are giving themselves a chance. And I think the biggest controversy is more so who deserves to have a first-round bye and who has the best path, and are the teams that have the best paths necessarily the most deserving based on what they've done in the regular season. I think these are the same debates that we had when it was a 14 playoff. It's just scaled up now with more teams included. And you're right. I think the SEC, and look, I've worked in the SEC for 7 years at South Carolina, and I should know that the Gamecocks have just as compelling a case as any 3-win team out there to get an at-large bid for the college football playoff. But the SEC has built up this mythologizing of itself
Yeah,
as the conference above all other conferences that, oh, well, you can be a 3-loss team in the SEC. That still means more than being a 2-loss team from the Big 12 or from the Pac 12, back when the Pac 12 existed, I guess. And so, there's going to be a lot of charm offenses and a lot of cases to be made. But I think you'd rather be the team with fewer losses to your name than more.
sure.
You're going to have to sell yourself on, being a 3-loss team a lot harder than if you did the work in the regular season and played the teams you play and, finish 11-1 or 10-2. But it will certainly be hotly debated. But what would be college football without hotly debating which
Yeah.
teams belong in versus belong out?
If you were looking at it through a crystal ball and you had to bet something big on it, who do you think has the advantage, and who do you think that which team do you think has the edge of winning it all?
Well, I think Oregon and Texas to me strike me as the two most complete teams. There are teams that can win just by their defense if their offense is struggling, but they're also dynamic enough where, if they need to get to 40 points to win a game, they can do that as well. So I think they're probably the most consistent teams in all three phases across the board. Um, but what's going to be interesting about this now that we're in 12 games, 12 teams in the playoffs, guys, is teams can catch a run. Like we've seen teams make the Super Bowl out of the wild card in the NFL. Who's to say that can't happen now in college football? So I'm smart enough to not dismiss any of those teams that are between 7 and 10. And Ohio State, I know, has to really dust its psyche off after what happened last Saturday, but they're a team that certainly is constructed for December and January. So I don't want to write them off either. But for me, I think Oregon and Texas have kind of established themselves as the two most quote unquote like recession proof teams during the regular season, where their dips weren't as severe or made you question them as much as maybe some of the other upper crust teams that'll be in the college football playoffs. I'd have to go with Oregon and Texas right now.
Let's talk a little college hoops. I know that Bulls fans are hoping they might get lucky in the lottery and get the first pick, get Cooper Flagg. Have you seen Flagg play in person? And I know you will certainly later this year, but do you think that he is going to live up to the hype as this potentially franchise-altering talent?
So we'll see Cooper Flagg when they come to Georgia Tech December 21st. So that'll be in a couple of weeks' time, Mark, that I'll get to see Cooper Flagg in person. Now, I've seen him plenty, just watching, and yeah, he's got an NBA skill set. And kudos to John Shire for letting him operate in a way that feels like an NBA system. So often you see guys that they kind of feel like their skills are constrained by the system that they're running in college. With Cooper Flagg, you're seeing a lot of skills that project to that next level. I think right now he has to be the consensus #1 pick. I know Ace Bailey has drawn a lot of buzz from Rutgers, and I'd love to say I've seen more of him and be able to compare him and Cooper Flagg. But I think there's so much to like about Cooper Flagg's game. He's got the size, he's got the ability to create his shot. He's got that feel for the game that you can't quantify, but you certainly can see if you watch it enough. And yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely got that NBA talent where he's ready to go day one. So yeah, hopefully in 3 weeks, maybe you can invite me back in the podcast and I can give you a firsthand observation of his game when they come to McCamus Pavilion.
Well, let's talk about what's going to happen tonight in Norman, Oklahoma. When was the last time?
Bring it on,
when,
Stacey. Here we go.
First of all, when was the last time Georgia Tech came to Norman? Was that with Mark Price and Sally and those guys, or had they been there since?
Yeah, so the last time we played at the Lloyd Noble Center was 82 and 83, and that was sort of because Mark Price was on the roster, and he's from Eden,
I was at that
Oklahoma,
game.
so
I was at that game. I was in
What's
high
that?
school. I was at that game. I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
Very
played.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
John Sally, Bruce Dalrymple.
Yeah, it was a good squad.
What's the kid? 33.
Oliver?
No, Oliver wasn't there. This was
Brian Oliver
John
was 90.
Sally,
Yeah,
and then Dwayne Farrell.
Oh, yeah,
he was a freshman. He was a freshman at that
People
time.
forget about Farrell. He was a good player.
And that
too.
that was kind of the coming out of Georgia Tech being an elite team. They came to play Wayman Tisdale there, And Wayman had like
Wow.
60, I think he had 67 against them,
Oh my
and
gosh.
was
That's
done,
about
had
right.
67, had like 8 dunks. I mean, it was unbelievable, but it was a close game. It wasn't a blowout. It was a really close contested game. And I was thinking about going to Georgia Tech because I was like, because North Carolina stopped recruiting me because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to wait and sign early, so they kind of penalized me. They wanted me to sign as a sophomore and lock in, and I didn't want to do that. Even that was my favorite school, so I started looking for ACC schools that could go against them, that were good enough to play against them, so I could bust their ass. So Georgia Tech got on my radar, and Maryland, and then Wake Forest, who had Anthony Tichy, and they had another guard there. Those were the 3 teams in the AC. Duke wasn't Duke yet. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
but those 3 teams were like the 3 top teams in the ACC, like in the early '80s, that I was really looking at.
Yeah. Well, I all these years, Stacey, that we've known each other, I never knew that you were at one point interested in Georgia Tech.
Yep, sure was. Bobby
How about
Crimmins,
that?
Bobby Crimmins called me a few times.
You probably only understood it half of those times. That Bronx accent.
Well, because
It's amazing how somebody who's lived in Atlanta for as long as he has still has that thick Bronx accent. I've never figured it out.
I'm telling you, he was a hell of a recruiter.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
you talking to him, you want to go play for him, and because he got Mark Price, a lot of people, Oklahoma passed on Mark Price, and which was a huge
Mhm.
mistake because Mark Price was a phenomenal high school player, phenomenal. If there would have been a 3-point line when Mark Price was in high school, he would have the all-time leading record. I mean, he would. I mean, I played against him when I was a freshman, and he would come past half court and shoot it. And it'd be,
Mm.
I mean, he was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. I tell people that all the time. They laugh at me. I'm telling you, if you go back and you watch Mark Price, I think he's one of the most underappreciated point guards in NBA history. Could shoot the basketball, unlimited range, can handle the ball. His handles were impeccable. And had they kept Ron Harper, we had Ron Harper on a couple weeks ago. Had they kept Ron Harper with that team, who knows how it would have turned out. Bulls still would have won some championship, but I don't know if we'd have won like we were winning because that was the closest team to us as far as it was Detroit and it was them and it was us. And so once we were able to beat them, we focused on Detroit because they got rid of Ron Harper and it was a little easier path for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously OU couldn't get Mark Price. He did get Brent Price. He got his brother.
They've got his brother Brent, and Brent came though. He came from like South Carolina though. He didn't
He
didn't
did.
come out of high school.
Yeah.
He came like 2. You gave him 2 years, and Brent was a phenomenal scorer as well. And his dad Denny Price was an OU guy, and so
Oh
when they
yeah.
passed on his kids, that didn't sit well. And so Billy thought he was just too small. At that time,
Mm.
but then he proved everybody wrong that it doesn't matter how how tall you are, it's about that heart. And Mark Price has tremendous heart, one of the best shooters I've ever seen.
Yeah. He was a bucket, and yeah, no, he's still is revered at Georgia Tech, and he was the one. He was kind of that signature first recruit, like you said, for Bobby Cremins, because Georgia Tech was wandering through the wilderness when Bobby took over in the early '80s, and he was part of that nucleus of guys that finally got Georgia Tech back to the NCAA tournament. And without Mark Price, he probably wouldn't have gotten Kenny Anderson or Dennis Scott or any of those other guys that followed, or Stephon Marbury. And yeah, Mark Price was kind of the beginning of that point guard pipeline. It kind of continues to this day at Georgia Tech.
Andy, before we let you go, I want to get a quick thought on the Atlanta Hawks. Stacey and I in the last segment were talking about the NBA Cup tournament. I think it's really started to catch on with the players in year 2, and Atlanta shocks everybody by winning the group, which is crazy. And the Pistons could win their group if they beat the Bucks tonight. So it's nice to see some of the teams that haven't had a lot of success in recent years get a chance to play for something. We mentioned Cooper Flagg earlier. The Hawks beat the odds, got the number 1 pick in the draft, took Zachary Reese-Shea, who was a developmental kind of project. But, with Jalen Johnson and some of the young talent that you guys have up front, do you see the Hawks as a team on the rise? I know the Bulls have dominated them in recent years, but they've shown some growth against other teams.
It's weird to kind of think of the Hawks as a team on the rise when they let DeJounte Murray
Yeah.
go, and John Collins as well, and some of these other guys that they kind of pegged as foundational pieces around Trae Young. But you know what? I think Jalen Johnson, he's an emerging
I
player.
like him.
And I think his best years are still ahead of him. You could just see the upside every single night he takes the floor. I think Dyson Daniels was a really good free
Mhm.
agent pickup, and it's going to take a while for Reese Shea to kind of round into form. But anytime you got Trae Young kind of spinning the dials in that pick and roll. You know that he's going to be able to put these guys in situations where they're able to be the best offensive version of themselves. It's be interesting to see if the Hawks can sort of take that next step, because they've kind of been floating sort of in the middle the last couple of years. And if I don't know if necessarily this roster is going to be the team that allows them to take that next jump, but you see like pieces starting to form into place. And if there was like a free agent they may be able to pick up next season, as sort of that comp to a DeJounte Murray, somebody in that vein who can play off a Trae Young, that'll be really intriguing for the Hawks. But I think, you know, there is some promise in sort of who they've added and how they're going to project out in the years to come. It's going to mean that the Hawks will be a sixth seed when it's all said and done for the NBA playoffs this year. Probably more unlikely than not, but you do like some of those acquisitions. It gives you a sense that they're on the right trajectory.
Yeah, when we played them a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, this is that team the same as Cleveland, Orlando, where they take their lumps. They take their lumps with the younger guys, but in a few years, this is going to be a team to watch. And right now, I'm telling you, man, that Dyson Daniels, I don't know what New Orleans was thinking about. I mean, you see him every day in practice, and if you let that kid go, I know you're trying to get DeJounte Murray. But that kid, what he's doing now in Atlanta with the steals, getting 5 or 6 steals a game. I think he's leading the league in steals. Yeah. I mean, there was a game I saw against us. He had 4 or 5 steals. I was like, oh, my God. And he's athletic. And then the Johnson kid, he's starting to round into form. They've got still got Clint Capella. I still think that they're probably going to move him. And try to get another piece. And Trae Young has really accepted the role. I talked to him when he was here. Accept the role of being a leader now. Being the face of the franchise, but be a leader to these younger kids. And I think being a parent, we talked about him being a father. That's kind of changed his whole perspective on everything. Because just being a dad. Your kids come first now, and, you got a whole different calmness about you. You see the game totally different now because you're much more mature now because you got so much stuff on your plate. But it was great talking to him the last time they were here and just hearing the maturation of him.
Yeah, the perfect word. Sure, Trae Young in the next phase of his career. And you guys know Atlanta's biggest issue the last several years, they couldn't guard a mannequin. So now with Dyson Daniels, it's not just what he individually brings, but that kind of defensive energy, you guys know, it can have a perpetuating effect on the rest of the team. And so I think just the attitude that they have now in the form of Dyson Daniels, that's going to spread to the rest of the players, and it's going to help them shore things up defensively, where that was just huge liability for them and what really was their biggest issue and what inhibited them from making that next step forward in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, I think Dyson Daniels, that's got to be one of the savvier acquisitions in the Eastern Conference, the way things have shaped up in the first 20 games of the season.
Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck on the call tonight against Stacey Sooners.
They'll be on ESPN, baby.
Yeah.
I'll be front row and center watching the Sooners run up and open a can of whoop ass.
Whatever the over-under is, a number of Stacey King references, I will
there you go. Hey, we love that.
I want you to have a great call. I want you to have a great call, but we open a can of whoop ass on your Yellow Jackets tonight. Okay.
Hey, I don't control the ball going in the basket.
Sooners all day, every day, baby.
Andy, thank you so much. And we look forward to your call with Stacey coming up day after Christmas.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
All right, bud.
Andy Demetra, our guest on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Bears. Matt Eberflus out.
Lord.
What comes next? That's our next topic on Gimme the Hot Sauce.
Oh, Eberflus. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
Well, we might have saved the best topic for last. Big topic of conversation in the Chicago area. The Chicago Bears have never fired a head coach in season until last Friday after the disaster where they let the clock run out with one timeout in hand. Matt Eberflus fired Friday morning, and we heard from Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles yesterday. Didn't really get a great explanation other than the fact that they just couldn't keep it going the way it was. 6 straight losses, 3 of them on the last play of the game. I mean, just crazy stuff. And, I never want to see anybody lose their job. But this was just a situation where all the high expectations for the Bears in the season is just disintegrated.
Well, and they probably should have let him go last year after last year,
Yeah.
bring in a whole new regime for a
Jim
new
Harbaugh.
quarterback. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. They had his number. They had all they had to do was get him. But again, it's almost like they don't want a strong personality, someone they can't control. But that was inexcusable against Detroit. I mean, I'm yelling timeout. I'm yelling timeout. Call timeout. What are you doing? How many timeout? Do they got timeout? I'm like, do they have a timeout? And he just said, and he looked like confused on the sideline when the camera's on him. Because even the people, the announcers, like, oh, the Bears gonna use a timeout here. They're gonna kill the clock. And he's like,
yeah, I was at my sister-in-law's house in Wisconsin, and everybody's huddled around the TV. Everybody's yelling, "Timeout! Timeout! What are you doing?" I mean, all across the country, people are yelling timeout, whether you're a Bears fan or not.
People who don't even know football were yelling timeout. Okay, people don't even speak the language of calling timeout. Everybody but Eberflus, and you know what?
Yeah,
they had no other choice but to let him go, because that's an embarrassment to not just himself as a coach, not knowing the situation, but to the organization. It makes the Bears look like just like a joke. Yeah. And, having an opportunity with a rookie quarterback, put him in position to tie the game, at least tie the game, or win the game, and then to take it out of his hands. People say, well, Caleb should have called timeout. That's not his responsibility. Maybe the coaching staff don't want a timeout. You know what I'm saying? You got to do what the coaches say. He was sitting over there like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
It took time to get the play in.
Yeah, and he was like, after a while, I was like, okay. Then he put him in a bad situation. Let me say this. I don't like to see anybody lose their job by any means, but he's shown throughout his tenure here that he's not a head coach. He might be a great defensive coordinator, but some people are better being in the other chairs. When you get put in that number one chair, everybody's not cut out to be the number one guy. They're cut out to be the number two, number three guy. He's one of those guys.
So Thomas Brown, who went from passing game coordinator, moved up to offensive coordinator when they fired Shane Waldron in 3 weeks. Now he's the interim head coach, and he's going to get a 5-game audition. The players like him because he's kind of old school. He'll bang the table. He'll tell you how he's feeling. But I don't know if he's going to be a serious candidate for the job long term.
Well, they're going to give him a chance, and he's already shown you that he's already made over the offense in such a short period of time. Caleb Williams looks a lot more comfortable running his stuff than he did Shane Waldron's.
Yep.
But at the same time, you can't be the typical Bears. Okay, you got to get an overhaul. And I like Thomas Brown, and I'm not saying he should lose his job, but you can't. You got to get a whole new regime. Offensive coordinator, head coach, defensive coordinator. Everybody's got to be new. You can't keep old blood in there, people who've been here from the old regime. I'm sorry. You just got to start over. You got to just reboot it. You got to get this kid. You got a franchise quarterback. He's got a legit chance to throw for 4,000 yards. It's going to be difficult, but he's got a legit chance. But this kid's going to throw for over 4,000 yards in his career.
Oh, no
you
question.
Can see it right now. You can see the way he plays. They have to address the offensive line. Has to be better. And that should be the main focus, besides getting coaches in here and getting a whole new regime, is they've got to upgrade that offensive line. And Ryan Poles, who used to be an offensive lineman, it's really completely shocking that that's not his expertise. Yeah. He's missed on a lot of guys at that position. And now you're starting to wonder, like, well, maybe you weren't good. Maybe you don't have an eye for talent. Maybe you should let someone else, evaluate offensive linemen, because it's easy to go find a DJ Moore. It's easy to go find a Keenan Allen. You know what they can do. They have a history in the NBA. I mean, in NFL. But it's hard to offensive linemen, because it's hard to get a good grade on those guys, because most of those guys don't go in the first round. They're like, they're 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and those guys are the ones who end up being Hall of Famers.
So we're looking at, the hot offensive coordinators, guys who've been head coaches in the past. The name we hear a lot about is Ben Johnson, who's the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, who are setting all kinds of records. They've got a completely balanced offense, lots of weapons, getting great production from Jared Goff. Cliff Kingsbury, who was the passing game coordinator at USC in Caleb Williams last year, he interviewed for the Bears OC job, didn't get it. Now he went off to the Washington Commanders. He's done a great job developing Jaden Daniels. Mike Vrabel, a former head coach in the NFL, has been mentioned. And then I heard Albert Breer from the NFL Network floating Bill Belichick out there. I don't see any way, shape, or form Bill Belichick would take the job.
No. I mean, no. He would be, honestly, though, he would be good for a young team.
Got to whip him into shape,
establishing a culture, if he was allowed to do that. If he's that's the whole thing. If a coach is allowed to coach and if you want culture change, and not just topically, you need to change it all the way down to the core and just restart over and get regrowth. Okay, because you got a talented team, you got a good defense, you got a franchise quarterback, you got some solid offensive pieces. You get you an offensive line upgrade, get you another pass rusher, a legit pass rusher. You can find yourself, winning the division. You can. I mean, look at Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota has a quarterback that people wrote off many, many times, and then he looks like a freaking Hall of Famer now playing for their coach.
Darnold. Yeah,
that coach is Kevin O'Connell. He turned him into a superstar.
Yeah,
so. And you look at
coaching matters.
Yeah, coaching does matter. You look at a guy like Shanahan. They're struggling right now in San Francisco. You hear his name that he's on the hot seat. You're sitting there saying, "How's his name on the hot seat? This guy's got put."
Bears to take him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's why you almost have to wait if you're the Bears. You just can't just jump in and just go get this guy now because you never know who's going to come available. You may get McVay from the Rams and say, I'm ready to leave here. I want, Stafford's getting old, teams getting old. I need a new challenge. He may be available. You never know. So, you don't want to just jump in there and just take the first name you see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens afterwards. And the Bears go to San Francisco this weekend.
Ooh.
49ers lost Christian McCaffrey to a knee injury.
Man, he's been hurt all
They
year.
lost his backup to an ankle injury, so they got a third-string running back. Brock Purdy's been beat up. Their defensive line is all beat up. So this is really a game on paper the Bears should win.
Yeah, but you can never take that for granted.
No.
Because, again, the 49ers are still the 49ers. They still have enough players to win. They're fighting for their playoff lives right now. That division is up in the air. You got
they're
the Cardinals.
Dead in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're 5-7 now.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's this whole, when you look at the NFL, there's a lot of surprise teams that you didn't think were going to be at this level. And they're, Minnesota. You didn't think Minnesota was going to be this good.
No.
Especially losing their draft pick quarterback, the kid from Michigan. You didn't think they were in there, lose a lot of people. You didn't think they were going to be that good.
Denver is going to probably get a
Oh, my
wild card
God.
spot.
Denver, I'm telling you, with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, Bo Nix.
I'm telling
last
you.
night. He was
Listen,
looking good.
Everybody be talking about, Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels had a great start to his career. But Bo Nix has been solid. He's been that stock that, that people say don't buy because it may not grow more than what it is. But he's been slowly trending up from week 3.
They got Sean Payton as the coach. Coaching matters.
Well, it matters in this league, man. It matters in this league when you got a good coach that can reach that quarterback and reach that team and to get the respect. You look at Jim Harbaugh. I was listening to the players in San Diego. They were doing interviews with players and says, what is the difference, this year compared to last year? You basically got the same team. You got rid of some of your star receivers, but you basically got the same team. They were saying that Jim Harbaugh they love playing for him.
Yeah.
He holds everybody accountable. He's fun to play for, but he also is a serious coach too. He rules with an iron fist. You don't do what he says, you won't be playing. And people respect that. And so this is a generation, Mark, where people think players don't want to be coached. Because the players, there's so much player empowerment, especially in the NBA. There's so much player empowerment that teams are afraid to piss players off because, they'll leave me. They'll leave me. If you're paying somebody $250, $300 million, they ain't going nowhere, okay? And if you're worried about what they're going to tell some other players, don't go play in Philadelphia, don't go play in Chicago, don't go play here. Listen, money talks, BS walks. At the end of the day, if I can get more money playing over here than I can get over there, you better believe I'm going to Chicago. That has nothing to do with anything. I know you had a bad experience. Maybe it won't happen to me. You know what I'm saying? But I would take it. If somebody going to give me $300 million and I got to go play in Chicago, give me a winter coat and a beanie. I'll be ready to go.
But Stacey's travel schedule's been crazy this year with the NBA, but he had a rare night off, and I saw he was searching out competition for NCAA football. Did you bust some ass?
Yeah, I did. I beat up on some people. They think
they were just asking for trouble.
You know what? They think it's sweet, Mark. They think that when I issue these challenges when I get bored. They think I'm gonna beat Stacey's ass. He can't play. And then when they get on the game, they realize when they're down 21-0 in the first quarter, like this shit's done got real. Like he's really good. Like I beat a dude the other day like 49-7, and he quit after the first half. That's how bad it was. I even screenshotted it so I could show Twitter like you want to play me, you better have a game. Like I'm not just talking trash. Like I actually can play. So they learn quick, Mark. They learn quick. You don't mess with me.
So
I'm that video game.
Stacey's busy playing video games. We're also watching TV. What do you got? Any recommendations for the folks this week?
Yes, I got a chance to see Gladiator 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty, it's a takeoff Gladiator 1 and a lot of the misconceptions of that. Like, I was a little disappointed because they almost took the same first movie and made it into the second movie without Russell Crowe. And I was just like, okay. And it tells you all these things. Like, you saw Gladiator 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The story's about the little boy in
Sure.
Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
So that's where the story leads to. And how he becomes a gladiator. It's just kind of like, okay, you guys are. This guy was, first of all, he's royalty.
Yeah.
He was royalty. He was part of the Caesar line. He was next in line. And he ends up being a slave. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That never happens. That just never happens. So that happened, and he grows up, and then he has a beef with Rome, and so he ends up being in the Gladiator. He was sold to Denzel Washington because Denzel Washington is a guy who got like expelled out of the council, the Senate, and then he ends up being owning a gladiator farm, and that's how he got a hold of the new Lucius is the guy's name, Lucian, and they got him. And Lucius said the same words that Russell Crowe said. He wasn't even around Russell Crowe that long. He did the thing where you grab the
creative license.
Yeah, he grabs the dirt. We always grab the dirt and then he do one of these and then he drop it. And that's when you knew you was in trouble with Russell Crowe when he grabbed that dirt. Lucian's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You never saw Russell Crowe. You was a baby. You never saw Russell Crowe doing it. And then they tie him into Russell Crowe. They basically tell. Spoiler alert, they basically said that was his son. I'm like, come on, man. Y'all doing too much. Come on, man. Come on. Y'all basically saying that the gladiator, Russell Crowe, that's his son with the queen, the girl who's supposed to be the queen, was, the sister of the bad guy. And they saying that's his son. Come on, man. Y'all lost me. But the graphics and all that stuff, the fight scenes, awesome. Awesome. It's just as awesome as the first one. It's just a little bit unbelievable.
It's always tough the second time around to try to make it just
try to make a great movie.
But you know what is just as good as Yellowstone? Yellowstone with a new season. It has been fantastic. One jaw drop episode after another. People getting killed. All kinds of dirty dealing. It's been a lot of fun.
Is it on Paramount?
Yeah, it's on every.
So
Sunday.
wait. Okay, so because I'm trying to go back to start watching it, and so like what season are we in?
I think it's season 6, but I'd have to double check that. I just know it's the brand new season, and it's right from the very first episode. It's been crazy good. And remember we had Denham Richards on, Colby.
Yep,
he gone.
No. See that adds up. That adds to my thinking. The black guys never make it to the end.
It's like a horror movie.
It's a horror. They're going to kill him in a cowboy movie. They're going to kill him in a cowboy show. I can see the horror movie. The black guy never laughs when, Jason or Freddie. Yeah. I get that. But now you killed him on Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Mark. Oh, Mark. We just had him on the show.
I know.
He didn't
give it up, though.
He didn't give it up, but he knew.
Yeah, he knew.
Wait till I see him. Yeah. You got to tell me this kind of stuff. I don't want to find out on a show. That hurt me. Oh, man, damn. You
know what we'll have to do for Denham? We'll have to send him some hot sauce. And I know the holidays are coming up, so make sure that you put your orders in so you get your hot sauce on time and be able to wrap it up, put it under the tree, treat all your people who love their spicy food. If you're looking for the hottest sauce in the game, you're in luck. We've got all the sauce for your kitchen needs.
All the sauce.
Chicago Fire, 1871, the hottest of the bunch, to our King's favorite, St. Pat's Verde. Gimme the Hot Sauce has got you covered. Stop by GimmeTheHotSauce.com. Use the code KING21 to get 21% off your first order. We'll get it to you in time for Christmas because even though Timmy Whispers is away, he's going to be back in the back closet packing up that sauce.
Packing it up like the packer he is. Mark, hey, how was your Thanksgiving, Mark? I forgot to ask you.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I was up in Wisconsin. The whole family got together. Kids were there. It was a lot of fun. How about yours?
It was great. Family, friends, everything was awesome. I tell you what, I made a ham, Mark. I just want to throw that out there. Yeah,
nice.
I made a ham.
Nice.
I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know what I was doing. But
So you brought the ham in the middle of an Italian gathering? Is that
yes,
what
I
happened?
did. I did. But that, I'm gonna tell you, it was a hit. Everybody ate it.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
I went to get something to take home. There was none left. The only thing left was the bone. I got it. So I got it at honey baked ham, right? So I got it at honey baked ham. So we didn't know how to like, you know, I'm not the chef, like, you know, Ann's the chef, so she knows how to cook. I don't know how to cook, so she left me hanging. So I had to end up cooking him. So I had to pull out an old recipe that my mom did, how she used to do it. I used to watch her do it all the time.
Yeah.
So she, you know, you got the maple syrup, some honey, some brown sugar, and some water.
Ooh, sweet.
And then you mix it up. You mix it up, and you put it on the stove and let it, you know, get thick and, you know, be a paste, basically glaze. Yeah. So I took the honey ham and I basted it with a little brush, and then I opened up the spirals and I would get a spoonful and pull it in there, so go through all the slices so every piece of the meat had that taste to it, you know. Yeah. And then at the end, I injected it. I took my little injector, started sticking it. And then what I did was I cooked it for an hour and a half. I put tinfoil over it, so it was like in a shell, so all those juices could go back in the ham. Yeah. That's my secret. And then I took the tinfoil off, and then cooked it for another 40 minutes to give it that little that crunchiness on the outside. Yeah. Oh, Mark,
that's good eating right there.
Mark, it was 11-pound ham.
Yeah. And
you would have thought it was 2 pounds the way these people ate it. They just, Ann's family just they just tore it up. And then, you know, they were so shocked that I cooked it. Yeah. They're like, oh, Ann, you did this? I'm like, no. Your boy did it. Chef Boyardee did it, all right? Just give me my credit. And now it's requested now. Everybody wants it for like Christmas and
holiday staple.
It's a holiday staple.
Wow. Yep. So Stacey King, a man of many talents.
That's right.
Well, we appreciate you joining us for this episode of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We'll have a brand new episode coming up again next week. I want to thank our brand new partners at the Chicago Sports Network. Glad to be on board there, and we're looking forward to them turning this into a TV show down the road. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, let's get out of here.
Drive home safely. Beep, beep. Hey, what's up? This is Stacey King.
And I'm Timmy Whispers
of Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Each week, make sure you join us. Timmy Whispers, what do they need to hit?
They need to hit like and subscribe so they get all the notifications and news from our podcast.
That boy is sweet. Just make sure when the video's over, click to the left, and you'll hear our previous videos for the previous week and have some fun, because we'd love to have fun on Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast.
Woohoo!
Oh, my goodness! It's only preseason!